What if I told you that one of hip-hop's most iconic duos just imploded in the most violent way imaginable? That friendship bracelets were traded for handcuffs, and that the streets of Harlem are now echoing with betrayal, sirens, and the sound of fists flying? Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Jones is fighting for his life. And the man allegedly responsible? None other than his own brother in bars, Camron, yes, Killa Cam. The Dipset bond? Shattered. The legacy? Drenched in blood, cuffs, and controversy. Reports are flooding in from sources close to the chaos, claiming an altercation between the two legends went from heated words to a full-blown attack behind closed studio doors. Emergency crews were called. Camron was detained on the spot. And Jim? Clinging to consciousness, sources say. Neck brace. Stretcher. Lights flashing. Was this revenge years in the making? Is Dipset officially dead? And why is everyone, from 50 Cent to Joe Budden, suddenly quiet as a church mouse? Because the truth is darker than we thought. And what you're about to hear might just destroy everything you thought you knew about hip-hop loyalty. Buckle up. This isn't just beef, this is war. And the body count is only getting started. Let's set the scene, because it didn't happen in the streets. It didn't happen in a club, at an award show, or even at one of those drama-filled versus battles. No. This war exploded inside a luxury Manhattan recording studio. That's right. The same place where legends lay down verses and cash million-dollar checks became a crime scene, soaked in betrayal, broken trust, and blood on the mixing boards. Sources say it started like any other reunion. Jim Jones and Camron, two names etched into Harlem's DNA, were reportedly in talks to revive Dipset with a surprise album. Social media had been speculating for weeks. Studio bookings, Instagram stories with champagne and low lighting. Even Joel Santana was allegedly back in the mix. But underneath the flashy comeback vibes, tension, resentment, unfinished business. Our insider, let's call her Maya with a mic, claims Cam had been growing increasingly irritated with Jim's sneaky solo plays. Apparently, Jim had been meeting with Roc Nation behind Cam's back. And let's not forget, just months ago, Jones hinted on Drink Champs that he carried Dipset on his back while Cam sat back counting checks. That didn't sit right with Cam. Allegedly, Camron came into that studio ready to talk. But as the saying goes in Harlem, when Cam shows up in Tim's during summertime, somebody's getting stomped. The confrontation started with words. Loud. Heated. Security didn't intervene because, hey, it's Dipset, right? Brothers argue. That's what they do. But then the studio engineer hit the panic button. And within seconds, the room erupted into chaos. According to multiple unverified eyewitness accounts, Camron reportedly launched the first hit, a mic stand swung like a baseball bat. Jim retaliated with a studio chair. Someone screamed. Someone else pulled out a phone. And in the corner, one assistant fainted. EMTs say they found her unconscious next to a half-eaten shrimp platter. And Jim Jones was barely breathing. He was found sprawled across the control booth floor, face swollen, teeth bloodied, and pulse faint. Sources say paramedics had to perform on-the-spot CPR while Cam, shaking, shirt torn, was immediately placed in cuffs and hauled into a black NYPD cruiser without shoes on. Now here's where it gets ugly. This wasn't some friendly fight. We're not talking rap beef with subliminal lyrics and Twitter fingers. This was assault with intent. And the NYPD isn't playing. According to leaked court documents, which mysteriously appeared in a Reddit thread 12 minutes after the incident, Camron is being charged with aggravated assault, battery with a deadly object, and reckless endangerment. A $750,000 bail was denied. Why? Because prosecutors say this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment brawl. They're calling it premeditated. A hidden camera in the studio hallway allegedly caught Cam arriving wearing gloves, no jewelry, and carrying a gym bag. What was in the bag? That remains sealed, but sources speculate. Duct tape, rope, and a Dipset chain. Cam wanted to return to Jim's neck violently. You can't make this stuff up. And just when fans thought it couldn't get worse, a tweet emerged. A now-deleted post from Cam's burner account, @RealKillaTalk, read, Loyalty got limits. I told y'all this clown would fold. The internet exploded. Hashtag Jim vs. Cam trended for 18 hours. And Dipset fans? Shattered. Confused. Divided. Some say this is karma. Others say it's a government conspiracy to stop black men from owning masters. And a third group? They're saying what nobody else has the guts to admit. This might be bigger than Dipset. Because when your day one tries to put you in a coma over old beef and music money, that's not a fight. That's a message. And this message? It might have been in the making for years. We're diving deep into the history, the betrayal, and the receipts they never wanted you to see right now. But first, here's where it really starts to unravel. So now we know it wasn't just a brawl, it was an ambush in disguise. But the bigger question is, what led to this explosion? Because this wasn't about bars. This wasn't about one man stepping on another's verse or screwing up a collab. This was deeper, personal, generational. A wound that had been bandaged with Rolexes, backstage passes, and throwback selfies, and now, that bandage ripped wide open, bleeding for the whole internet to see. Let's rewind. Camron and Jim Jones go way back, Harlem royalty. But every street king knows, when the crown gets heavy, loyalties start to crack. Over the years, Dipset wasn't just rap, it was business. Money, deals, power moves. And according to several insiders, Jim had been making secret plays without Cam's blessing. Sources close to both camps say Jim allegedly signed 2 solo endorsement deals and snuck a publishing negotiation with Roc Nation behind Camron's back. For years, Cam had been the face. But in recent years, Jim became the hustle. And Cam felt played. Fast forward to the studio night. Leaked hallway footage shows Camron pacing aggressively, gloves on, and talking to someone on a burner phone. And then came the viral audio leak, a phone call recorded by Cam's own cousin. A 3-minute clip where Cam allegedly said, he thinks he's Beyoncé now. But he forgot who taught him how to eat. Phew. That line alone sent Twitter into cardiac arrest. Suddenly, everyone had theories. Memes. Clubhouse rooms. Spaces on X. Reddit threads titled Dipset Conspiracy, The Fall of Harlem's Kings. And then came the DMs. Screenshots started circulating from 2019 and 2020. Messages allegedly showing Cam confronting Jim about missing money, unreleased tracks, and fake handshakes. One message read, "Keep playing me, and I'll bring Harlem to your front porch." Fans dismissed it back then as posturing. Now, it looks like prophecy. Let's talk injuries because the studio turned into a battleground. Jim was rushed out with a dislocated shoulder, facial fractures, and 2 cracked ribs. Reports say he drifted in and out of consciousness on the way to the hospital. But the real shocker? Paramedics found a broken Dipset chain clenched in Cam's hand as he was being cuffed. He never let it go. It took 2 officers to pry it out. Witnesses say he kept muttering, "This was mine first. Mine." As if that wasn't enough, the DA's office came out swinging. Leaked documents, sent anonymously to blogs like The Shade Room and Baller Alert, reveal Camron is now being charged with aggravated assault, assault with a deadly weapon, yes, that might stand, attempted manslaughter, and unlawful possession of intent to distribute violence, yes, that's real, well, almost. And it doesn't stop there. A duffel bag Cam allegedly brought into the studio has sparked a whole other investigation. According to a janitor who works in the building, the bag was confiscated and contained a second burner phone, latex gloves, a USB-marked Project Revenge, a handwritten note that simply said, "No more brotherly love." It's giving Lifetime movie meets BET Uncut. Now, the public reactions? Chaotic. Charlemagne the God called this the final chapter of Dipset, signed in blood. Joe Budden did a 4-hour live stream where he half joked, half cried about losing his childhood. 50 Cent, being 50 Cent, posted a meme of Camron photoshopped in an orange jumpsuit holding a sign that said, "Dipset Deadass." Even Fabulous tweeted, "This ain't what Harlem wanted. This ain't what we needed." But the award for wildest theory goes to Reddit user Uptown Mama, who claims. This whole thing is a PR stunt, and the final Dipset album is dropping on June 6th, just watch. Which sounds insane until you remember, this is hip-hop, where beef sells albums, feuds fill stadiums, and fake deaths launch careers. And yet, some things feel too real to fake. Like the hospital report that shows Jim may suffer permanent vision loss in his right eye. Or the silent video clip of him, laying in that bed, hooked to machines, slowly raising 2 fingers in what fans believe was a peace sign, or maybe a cryptic, V for Vendetta. Or the anonymous message that got sent to the neighborhood talks inbox with no return address. It read, "Don't believe what you're hearing. This wasn't about Dipset. This was about betrayal." And Jim wasn't the only one targeted. The next one's coming soon. Chills. Literal chills. Now, let's dive into the fan split, because the culture is divided like never before. Some fans are riding for Cam, saying Jim got cocky and greedy, that he broke the unspoken code of the set. Others say Cam couldn't handle the spotlight shifting and went full psycho mode. Here are just a few public reactions pulled from trending posts. At Harlem Queen Kiki, Cam put Harlem on. Jim forgot who gave him a seat. This had to happen. At Dipset Still Matters, this broke my heart FR. I grew up on these dudes. Watching this is like seeing Biggie shoot Puff. At Chrissy Forever, I told y'all years ago, Jim is loyal to nobody but a bag. At NY Clown Watch, why y'all acting shocked? These dudes been fake. Meanwhile, in the middle of this storm, Joel Santana, the one man who could have been the peacemaker, posted a boomerang of him sipping tea in silence. No caption. No words. Just vibes. Translation? Everyone's watching. And nobody's safe. And just when the internet thought it couldn't get messy, boom. An ICU nurse from Jim's hospital leaked something massive. A video. Short. Shaky. But clear enough. Jim Jones. Hooked to machines. Swollen face. Barely able to speak. He raises 2 fingers. A nurse asks if he's okay. Jim opens his mouth slowly and whispers, "Tell Cam it ain't over." Let that marinate. It ain't over. Those 3 words lit the match on a gasoline-soaked narrative. Because if Jim is breathing, then he's plotting. And if he's plotting, well, you're gonna need popcorn. Tell Cam it ain't over. 3 words whispered through a busted jaw. And suddenly, Jim Jones wasn't just a victim. He was a warning. The culture heard it. Loud and clear. This wasn't the end of Dipset. This was the start of hip-hop's most dangerous Cold War. Let's start with the legal fallout, because the NYPD is treating this like a gang-level incident. After the footage from the studio hit the precinct desk, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office didn't just slap Cameron with a few charges, they escalated the case to a violent felony investigation. Now officially labeled as a targeted internal artist assault, the DA is calling for enhanced sentencing under the Celebrity Accountability Reform Act, a law that doesn't exist, but sure sounds serious when CNN runs with it. Prosecutors claim the attack wasn't spontaneous, but orchestrated. Cam allegedly rented the studio under a shell company, Purple Pain Records LLC, and paid the engineer triple his rate to not be there after 10 p.m. The building's logs mysteriously went missing. And here's the kicker. A wiped USB was recovered from Cam's duffel bag. Forensic techs are trying to decrypt it, but rumor has it, it contains a track called Final Verse. A diss record, a threat, and maybe the confession. And it doesn't end there. Cameron's manager, his security guard, and even his barber have been subpoenaed. Authorities are building a case that this wasn't just heat-of-the-moment rage. It was a coordinated hit. Now, let's talk media. Every outlet from Complex to Fox News is spinning this faster than a DJ Khaled cameo. MSNBC called it a metaphor for fractured Black brotherhood. TMZ labeled it the fall of Harlem royalty. And Candace Owens, yes, she had to chime in, said, "This is what happens when you worship street culture. First sagging pants, now sagging morals. Sit down, Candace." And then, Netflix called. An anonymous source says both Cam and Jim have been approached separately for exclusive documentary rights. Working title, Dipset. Loyalty ain't what it used to be. Joel Santana, strangely silent since the incident, is reportedly acting as executive producer. And speaking of Joel's, here's where the plot thickens. A leaked email shows he was supposed to be at the studio that night, but pulled out last minute due to a weird gut feeling. His team says he has nothing to do with the drama, but the streets are asking, was he the mole? Or the ghost in the machine? Meanwhile, back in Harlem, Dipset murals are being vandalized. In broad daylight, someone painted RIP over Jim's face on a 125th Street mural. On Cam's old block, flyers were posted saying, "You broke Harlem. You don't speak for us." The city that once worshipped Dipset? Now watching the crown fall with side eyes and crossed arms. Let's switch gears. The fans. Dipset diehards are in shambles. Concert ticket sales have plummeted. Merch has been pulled from shelves. Even the upcoming Lovers and Legends tour was canceled overnight.
Why?
Because organizers feared ongoing safety concerns and unpredictable retaliation. Yup. They're scared this could spiral into a real-life East Coast blood feud. And then, just when things couldn't get any murkier, a mysterious IG account appeared. Handle? @TheRealDipsetFiles. With one post. A blurry image of a signed NDA with Cameron's name on it. Caption? He wasn't the only one. Jim was just first.
What does that
mean? Is there more violence coming? Are other Dipset members targets? Is this the start of a revenge tour? All we know is that the account gained 143,000 followers in 3 hours. And rumor has it, the next post will include surveillance audio from inside the studio. Even Academics is sweating. He went live and said, "This is bigger than Meek versus Drake. Bigger than Kanye versus Pete Davidson. This is family warfare with a beat drop." Now, let's bring it back to Jim. Insiders say he's healing, but he's not forgiving. He's retained a legal team connected to Jay-Z's firm, and get this. He's allegedly exploring a civil lawsuit against Camron for damages, lost income, and emotional distress. If filed, that suit could reach $4.2 million. But forget the money. Jim's camp leaked one more thing. An unreleased freestyle. Rough. Unmixed. Over a haunting sample of Hate Me Now. In it, Jim says, "You ain't Harlem. You just happen to live there. You ain't royalty. You just talk loud. And when I rise again, don't act like you know me. You'll be watching from a jail cell."
Bars.
So, where does that leave us?
Dipset is dead.
Not in album sales, not in legacy, but in brotherhood. Cam's in jail. Jim's in the ICU. And Harlem? It's holding a candlelight vigil one night and meme stitching the next. This isn't a comeback story. It's a cautionary tale. The very streets that built them may now bury them. And if you think it ends here, you ain't been paying attention. Because in hip-hop, the real battles aren't on wax. They're in hospitals. They're in courtrooms. They're in whispered threats and unreleased verses. So now the world watches. Jim Jones is healing but plotting. Camron sits in a cold cell, his silence louder than ever.
And Dipset?
Once Harlem's untouchable empire, now reduced to broken chains, deleted posts, and a million shattered memories. But here's the real question. Was this inevitable? Did years of hidden tension, quiet envy, and backdoor deals lead to this brutal breaking point? Or was it something darker? A betrayal deeper than money, music, or fame? And if Jim's haunting final words, "Tell Cam it ain't over," mean anything, then we're not looking at a resolution. We're looking at a war in progress. A war of bars, blood, and betrayal. So now it's your turn, audience. Do you think Jim will retaliate? Is Cam really the villain? Or was he pushed too far? And is this just the beginning of a bigger unraveling in the hip-hop elite? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Every theory counts. And if you've got receipts, leaks, or street whispers, send them in. We're watching everything. This story is far from over. And if you want to be the first to know what happens next, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next piece of this wild puzzle. Because when the truth drops, we'll be here to break it down, expose it, and broadcast it louder than ever.